Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 99. One step away from 100. Almost at the big mark. Episode 99 of the Tristain Sports Show Toss. It is your main man, T-Square, Tristan Thomas. Thank you all so very much for joining us this week. What's on tap? In the state of the state, we have to talk Green Bay Packers. They had a thrilling win. A huge statement win. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. Their season is now underway, but it's been kind of choppy. We'll check in with them. And in the tall sweep, we'll go with NFL. And we'll talk some surprises and some disappointments. We're about at the halfway mark of the season. I know it's weird, 17-game season, 8 games through for most teams, but you get the point. We'll talk about it. But you all know how we get things started here on Toss. We get things started with the state of the state. Before we get started with that, 99 episodes, y'all. 99 episodes. It blows my mind that we sit here on the cusp of 100 episodes, and we started this thing back in 2015, and I know I'll probably make a bigger speech for episode 100. People, you all were asking me for this content, and after appearances on Wisconsin television and sports television and making appearances on other podcasts, and people was asking me, did you have your own podcast? And at the time I didn't. I'm like, well, I don't. Well, you should get one. Well, you know what? You're right. This all started because of all you. Now, we'll get into that in episode 100. It's episode 99, but it just blows my mind that we're one step away from that. But anyway, let's get to the state of the state again. Let's talk about those Green Bay Packers who are now sitting at the top of not just the National Football Conference, a.k.a. the NFC. They are up top of the National Football League, the entire NFL, with a 7-1 record, beating the previously unbeaten, undefeated Arizona Cardinals. Thursday Night Football last week, 24-21, in an absolute thriller. If you watched Quick Toss, if you watched everything that was leading up to the game, Davante Adams going down with COVID, Allen Lazard being out because he was a close contact with Davante Adams, defensive coordinator Joe Barry being out for the game, Jerry Gray having to step in and have the play calling duties on defense. The amount of injuries overall with Jair Alexander being out and Kevin King still being out. A host of other players still being out with injury. There was every reason in the world to lose this game. And if the Packers would have lost that game, everyone would have understood. If you watched Quick Toss, you would know that I predicted the Packers to lose that game. That was even before all the injuries. That was even before the COVID situation. Looking at how the season was shaping up, looking at how the Arizona Cardinals were playing, looking at how the Green Bay Packers were playing, and those two going head up, I had the Cardinals winning it by a touchdown. Originally, it was 31-24 when everyone was healthy on the Packers, and then that went to 31-20. I just didn't think the defense would come up with enough plays to keep Arizona out of the end zone. And I didn't think that the Packers would be able to throw the ball enough to keep up with that Cardinal offense. Hence the 31-20 prediction. Remember, it does not matter the score, but that was the score, and I had the Packers losing that game. I am always happy to be wrong about that. Throw ego out the window. I have absolutely no ego when it comes to that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm going to own up to it. No ego whatsoever. I am so happy I was wrong about that. A 24-21 victory should have not even been that damn close. I don't understand how the officials go and they look at that replay of Aaron Jones getting into the end zone and saying, oh, he didn't get in there. There was not definitive evidence on video that he did not break the plane before he was down. But I digress. They recalled it. Aaron Rodgers couldn't get into the end zone. Here you go. Let's set it up. Cardinals start to march down the field, going up tempo as they had, and the Packers defense had trouble with the up tempo offense of Arizona. We'll talk about how they were able to counteract that in a second. But they marched all the way down the field, and you just knew. 15 seconds remaining. They're inside the 10. This is about to be over. It's either going to be tied or it's going to be a touchdown. They have time to take a couple of shots into the end zone. This is probably going to be over. Kyler Murray, who ends up getting dinged up in that game, snaps it, tries to throw the fade to A.J. Green in the corner. A.J. Green, apparently they say there was some miscommunication, doesn't know where the heck he needs to go. But you know who did know where they needed to go? Rasul Douglas of the Green Bay Packers signed off of the Cardinals practice squad earlier this season. With the interception in the end zone, game over, Packers win 24-21. I could not believe it. I absolutely could not believe that win with everything going against you. The short week, the injuries, COVID. Going up against an undefeated team that is a really good team. Let's not poo-poo the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a really good team. On the road. Hostile territory, even though really it was kind of like a 50-50 split. I would say almost a 60-40 split. Packers fans, it was almost like a home game again. Packers fans travel extremely well all over the world. It's insane. But to have all that working against you and for you to come out with a win like that, a signature win, is amazing. So many storylines involved in this game. Matt LaFleur now 33-7, tied for the second most wins in NFL history through a coach's first 40 games. He's been incredible. And the thing that really blows your mind about this stat is the fact that as of right now, he has less losses over his entire head coaching career than the entire NFC North division. That's insane to me. That is absolutely insane to me. Absolutely insane. He's been damn good. But how did the Packers pull that off? They're 7-1, atop of the NFC, atop of the NFL. 7 straight victories after that rough start in Jacksonville against the Saints. I know I keep saying that, and people are like, what? Hurricane Ida, they got pushed out of New Orleans. They had to play in Jacksonville, and it was a home game for the Saints. That's why it's a week rough run in Jacksonville against the Saints. So after that, they haven't been flawless. The record has been, but their play hasn't been flawless. But it's been adaptable. And that's a big thing I've been using on Quick Toss because it's the best way to describe them. It's really the best way to describe this team under Matt LaFleur. Adaptable. You know what other team used to be really adaptable? The Patriots. That was a team that was going to go and win the game the way it needed to be won and not try to force a system down the throat of the players and in certain game situations to where it wouldn't fit. Hey, this is where we're going to have to win this game. We need to go and do this. Throw egos away at the door, and regardless of how you felt about it, this is just how it was with the Patriots. It was the quote-unquote Patriot way. I see that in this Green Bay Packers team, especially under Matt LaFleur. They will go and win the games the way they need to be won. Do we need to run the football? Damn it, let's go and run the football. That's exactly what they need to do on Thursday against the Cardinals. We need to air it out. Okay, let's go air it out. We need to be a tough, physical, play some smash mouth football. Let's do that. We could do that. Especially with this defense that's proven to be really, really tough. Devondre Campbell, Rasul Douglas, Henry Black. All names that a lot of people will be scratching their heads about. I never heard of these guys. These guys are proven to be extremely important to this defense. well, I mean, I wouldn't say Henry Black was more important to the Cardinals game, but if you're talking about all season, who's been important? You talk about a Rasul Douglas, you talk about a Devondre Campbell, you talk about a newly acquired Whitley Merciless, who's just been so good since he's been here with the pressures, and I mean, he's proven to be very, very valuable. Guys that Goot brought in. You knew you were going up against a high-powered offense, and you had to slow down the amount of possessions they were going to get. The best way to do that is run the football, clock control offense. If you are a fan of the show, you know we talk about the Wisconsin Badgers football team, who is also hot, by the way, winning back the Heartland Trophy over Iowa, a ranked Iowa squad this past Saturday. Congratulations to them. They are looking a hell of a lot better than they did earlier in the season. I'm going to tell you that. Nice turnaround for them. They're getting into a groove. But back to the Packers. They play the Badgers, they play they used to play a clock control offense. The quarterback wasn't going to throw that many passes, but when he did, they were going to be in important spots. They were going to get them to their playmakers. But the meat potatoes of that team was the offensive line and the running backs. The Packers went to a smash mouth, clock control kind of offense because that's what they had to do in order to win this game. The Cardinals do not stop the run very well. Now, the past 2 weeks before the Packers game, they had gotten a little bit better. But you're going up against two really good backs, and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, the sauce. Which, by the way, he loves AC Tap. He loves their wings. How have they not come up with the sauce? Yeah, maybe I'll tweet him that. Anyway, I digress. Just random thoughts here on Toss. They played a clock control offense. They had to run the football because the Cardinals do not stop the run very well at all. They're nearly in the bottom third of the league in stopping the run. You needed to limit their possessions. The best way to do that, run the football. Allow Aaron Rodgers to be accurate to keep this team ahead of the chains. You knew he could do that, even though it was really tough. Rodgers was only 22 of 37, 184 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, both of them to Randall Cobb. You're talking looking for familiarity in a situation where you really didn't have much. Remember, Lazard was down. Equanimeous St. Brown was down. MVS was down. Devontae down. I mean, he really didn't have very much familiarity out there. Tunya went down with the ACL injury in that game on a big play. And thoughts to him on the speedy recovery. Hated seeing him go down. He was just really starting to get laddered up over the last couple of games. He was really starting to come on. And you really hate to see that. Same with Kylan Hill, a vicious hit, collision on a return. He's out for the season with a knee injury as well. Speedy recovery to him as well. You don't like to see that happen, but you just have to have faith that those guys will come back better the next year. But he needed familiarity. Cobb only caught 3 passes for 15 yards, and 2 of them were for touchdowns. That gives you an idea of where this passing game was. It was not at the forefront. It was to keep this team ahead of the chains, but the way they run this game was running the football, killing that clock. 151 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. That was by Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, 59 yards and a touchdown rushing, had another 51 receiving. Another game where he's over 100 yards from scrimmage. A.J. Dillon, the sauce, 16 carries, 78 yards, just under 5 yards a carry. That's what you want. That is the production you want from your 2 backs. In a game where you had to absolutely be able to run the football to have a shot in this game. They kept the Cardinals off the field. Packers' time of possession was about 38 minutes. Cardinals only had it for about 22. That is clock control. That is keeping a high-powered offense on the sideline, and that is you going out there killing the clock, and finishing drives with touchdowns. And if you don't finish the drive with points, get as far down the field as you possibly can while you take off the most amount of time on the clock as you possibly can, and you set yourself up for success. And that's exactly what happened. A clock-controlled offense kept Cardinals on the sideline again. 38 minutes time of possession for the Green Bay Packers compared to about 22 minutes for the Cardinals. They did the job. That offensive line was fantastic. The running backs were fantastic. The receivers did their job. They stayed ready. Winfrey got his first time. First game action at receiver. Definitely a team effort on offense. Definitely a team effort on defense. We mentioned Henry Black and Rasul Douglas, both of them with interceptions and in big spots. We all know Douglas's, but Henry Black's was in a huge spot. Giving the Packers the ball back and then turn it to points. Only 2 sacks by this Packers defense, but you know what? They did a really good job on pressuring Kyler Murray, hurrying his decisions, and playing contain on him because we know him to be an athletic quarterback. He can get out that pocket. He is extremely fast. He did have his moments where he was able to get outside and make a couple of runs. But for the most part, in this whole game, the Packers did a really good job of playing contain on him so he didn't have those huge running lanes. They weren't collapsing on the inside and leaving nothing but green grass on the outside or turf, whichever one they have. I think it's grass because they have this thing where they can just roll the field outside and then roll it back indoors. It's pretty cool to see. But I digress. He didn't have a whole lot of green grass to run around on because the Packers played really good contained offense or defense. They were really disciplined. I would say the only undisciplined play I saw or that I can remember at this point is Eric Stokes. Of course, he's a rookie, but he's been fantastic this year. Just not locating the ball and letting DeAndre Hopkins, Nuke, get loose for about a 55-yard reception. Should have been a touchdown, but he went out of bounds. Or excuse me, I believe it was a face mask. Yeah, it was a face mask. You have a couple of hiccups along the way, but for the most part, this defense, this offense, this was, when they say a complete team effort, this is the type of game they're talking about. This was a complete team effort because you are missing so many of your all-pros and your pro bowlers and your good players, factor players, in impact spots. And you're able to come out with a statement victory. Make no question about it. This was a statement victory for the Green Bay Packers. No question about it. But how do you build upon that? You have another tough one against the Kansas City Chiefs, who defeated the New York Giants on Monday Night Football to get themselves back to 500. They were under 500, believe it or not. We'll talk about that a little bit in the Tall Sweep. And I'm in very much in agreement with head coach Matt LaFleur that you will be foolish to play the record of Kansas City. You need to play the personnel. They still have Patrick Mahomes. They still have Travis Kelce. They still have Tyreek Hill. And teams have figured out a way to have some success in containing their offense, using their aggressiveness against them. Okay, you guys like the big play. You like the big shots. We're going to play 2 deep shell. And we're going to force you to take everything underneath and frustrate you because you can't throw it down the field against us. We will not give up the big play. We will give you everything you can have in front of us. You will not get behind us. And In my opinion, Patrick Mahomes gets a little bit bored about that. But we'll talk about that on Quick Toss this week. Look out for that on Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show, as well as YouTube. That'll be dropping on Thursday. But it's a big game. Late afternoon game on Sunday at Arrowhead. It's a tough challenge. You have to build upon what you've done. Last week, thriller. This week, you'll be getting some of those guys back. Devontae looks to be back on track. Joe Barry looks to be back on track. MVS looks to be back on track. You're starting to get some guys back. You're starting to get a little bit healthy. David Bakhtiari, he may be back. Very excited about that. That'll kind of put your line back into some normalcy. But you have to build upon what you've done. You have to build upon it. Last week was thrilling. What are you going to do this week? How will you get better? We'll get to see that on Sunday afternoon against Kansas City at Arrowhead. Continuing here on Toss State of the State, let's talk about the world champion Milwaukee Bucks. I will never get tired of saying that. The NBA world champion Milwaukee Bucks. Now, you talk about the Packers being injured. The Milwaukee Bucks are injured too. Tonight in Detroit, they came into the game at 3-4. They beat down the Pistons, blew them out to get themselves back to 500. But they were down 4 starters. The only starter to play or to start that game, you're talking the normal starters, was Giannis. The only regular starter that was starting that game. Dante still coming back from his injury. Drew still out. Brook Lopez still dealing with back issues. And now Chris, and again, we want to send our healing energy to him. It was confirmed that he does have COVID. He did compete in the Olympics, so I believe you had to be vaccinated in order to be a part of that. So he could be in far worse shape now than he would have been. He could be in far worse shape now had he not been vaccinated. So definitely our healing energy to him to get back from this quickly. We know how it took Drew out last season. Missed about 10 games, and it took him about almost 10 more for him to really get his win back and get back to that Drew Holiday we all know and love, which is the one that we saw locking fools down in the rest of the regular season and throughout the playoffs. So we definitely hope he comes back and he comes back healthy and nothing worse happens to him. You just got back Bobby Portis. So you got some guys starting to come back into the fold, but you're still very much the walking wounded. So you're playing a lot of guys, a lot of minutes that typically won't play that many minutes and be in those positions to play. And it's making life a little bit difficult. Now, again, the season is extremely young. You're only 8 games in. Now, you all know my rule. I can't sit here and tell you what kind of team this is in a full season until after 30 games. Now, last season, it was different. It was a 72-game season. I knocked that down to 25 games before I really started analyzing what kind of team this is going to be. But we're back to 82 games. So you're not going to get that deep dive from me until 30 games. So you still got another 22 to go. So that tells you how young this season is. It's still very early. This team is still very much injured. You got a lot of guys on this team that have never gone that deep into the playoffs. And then to really turn around and start the season much earlier. Remember, the season didn't end until late July. That ended with the Bucks hoisting the Larry O'Brien Trophy as NBA champions. You turn around and training camp is in October, and then the season begins in October. Typically, the regular season ends in mid-June. So you're talking an entire month of offseason gone because you started the season later, the season ended later, but now in an effort to get back on track into a full 82-game season, the NBA pretty much started it on its regular timeline. So yeah, you're going to have a lot of guys who are still not quite there, still not quite healthy. That's what they're dealing with. Once this team gets healthy, it will get better, and it's going to be trouble. But the thing people need to do is calm down, chill out. It's literally only been 8 games, and people are already predicting doom. The Bulls are 6-1. Okay, great. They made a lot of changes. They got Alonzo Ball in there. They got a DeMar DeRozan in there. They made a lot of changes. That seemed to be meshing well. But again, it's early. They're 6-1. It's literally only been 7 games. Oh, the Wizards were at the top of the Eastern Conference. Okay. They made some changes. They seem to be meshing well. But again, it's early. It's literally only been 7 to 8 games for most teams. So let's stop with the doom and gloom. You even have on social media some of the bigger networks asking the silliest questions. Oh, which one of these teams that's currently at or under 500 is poised to bounce back? It's not even 10 games into the season. It's not even 10 games into the season. What are we doing? What are we doing? They don't even provide any context. They just put somebody's picture up, and then they put their record at the bottom and say, oh, this team is terrible, and these are playoff teams last year. Which one of them is going to bounce back? As if none of them can bounce back, including the Bucks. When the season has just started, you haven't even hit the 10-game mark yet. And they're acting as if this team can't get above 500 and make the playoffs again. Like, come on. Like, this, pump your brakes. Chill out. I recall one time the Bucks were 3-9. This was during the Big Three era with Sam Cassell and Glenn Robinson and Ray Allen, Scott Williams and those cats, Tim Thomas and all them. George Karl coached. They were 3-9. They were 3-9. Now at 3-9, it's like, okay, how are they going to come back? And then they won 50+ games. I believe they went 52-30 that year. Like, come on. It's way too early to be calling or pushing the panic button for these teams. This is not the NFL. 8 games in, and you're 500 just because they've expanded the playoffs one more spot in each conference. You may very well be in the 7th spot. But if you're like 1-6 or 1-7, like some of those teams in the NFL, and again, we'll talk about that in Tall Sweep, then there's cause for concern. Because you don't have that many games. It's 82 games. And you're trying to have people push the panic button after 8. Stop it. It's time for us to run the Tall Sweep. Because this is just ridiculous. Toss Sweep, brought to you by the good folks at Toss Nation Media. Toss Nation Media. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. Man, sometimes I just gotta take a breather. I can't believe the foolishness that just comes out of some media outlets, just minds. Now, I get it. You want attention. You want clicks. Stop trying to have people push the panic button after 8 games. Like, good grief. All right. Let's all sweep. We have to run through some NFL surprises and some disappointments. And some of these, I mean, honestly, I expected some of these, and then some of them are like, okay, yeah, but kind of situations. Let's go to the AFC. All right, everybody knew that the Bills were going to be good. We knew that. I think probably in the AFC, the biggest surprise at the top of a division would be the Raiders for me. The Raiders being 5-2 after everything they've been through. You're talking about John Gruden and his disgusting comments. And then just today with Henry Ruggs, their young wide receiver who was really starting to get lathered up and really starting to make some noise in the NFL. And prayers to the victim's family. And prayers to Henry Ruggs as well, because he's going to have to live with this mistake for the rest of his life. He was involved in a car crash that resulted in the death of the driver of the car that he crashed into, and he was under the influence. That is such a difficult situation. Again, prayers to the family of the victim, and prayers to the family of Henry Ruggs and Henry Ruggs himself. Like I said, he's going to have to deal with that mistake for the rest of his life. You know, he's going to have to deal with that for the rest of his life. I don't think there's going to be a day that he goes without thinking about that. But for the Raiders to go through everything they've been through this year and to be at the top of the division, a division that has the Kansas City Chiefs, again, who just got to 500, that's saying something. That's huge. That's huge. I would say a disappointment would be those Kansas City Chiefs. That's one disappointment. Them being at 4-4, tied for last in the division. Because right now the Chargers are at 4-3. They're in second. The Broncos are also 4-4. So those guys are both hanging around that 500 mark. There's a lot of games left to be played. Remember, it's a 17-game season. You got 9 games remaining. Both these teams could possibly make a run, but somebody's got to lose out on a playoff spot in that division. Somebody may very well be over 500, maybe a game over 500, because you can't be at 500 anymore. You're either going to be 8-9, unless you get a tie. But you're either going to be 8-9 or you're going to be 9-8. I think that's really, for me, the biggest. Well, you know what? I would say this. The Dolphins, I thought were going to be a lot better. The defense they displayed previous season, and with Tua in year 2, you think he would take that step up. And over the past couple of games, he's starting to play a little bit better. But they've lost some heartbreakers, and they're sitting at 1-7. Texans, you knew what that situation was going to be. Deshaun Watson, all of his accusations, against him. The Texans actively, benching him, not playing him a lick. Couldn't get a trade done. I guess Miami was the biggest partner in that trade. They decided not to do it, which I figured they wouldn't, because had they not done it by now, and today was the trading deadline, they weren't going to do it. So Watson's just going to sit there, and he's going to have a lost year. And then, given the situation, you understand why. But I knew they were going to be down there. The Jaguars, again, young quarterback. They hope he'll be the franchise quarterback. And Trevor Lawrence, they have some receiving around him, but they did lose DJ Chark to a season-ending injury, so that definitely hurts. They really need some more pieces around them. That defense is definitely not as good as it once was when it was Saxonville. It's a far cry from that. And plus, I've never been excited about Urban Meyer in any way, shape, fashion, or form. Whether he was at Florida, whether he was at Ohio State, never once been excited by him. And now he's in the NFL. It does not get me very excited. I will be honest. I thought this was an underwhelming hire. I thought it was just a splash hire to get attention because he is a name hire. What qualities does he bring that you say, oh, yeah, that guy's definitely NFL quality? Apparently the Jaguars felt that he did, but, like I said, it's year one. You got to give some time to play out, but I knew they would be down towards the bottom of the conference. Let's move over to the NFC. No surprise that the Packers are at the tops of their division and at the tops of the conference. I mean, this is a really good team. It's a really good team. They've been to back-to-back NFC championship games. They are right there. They are on the cusp. It's a Super Bowl contending team. They just need to figure things out on offense because they've just been a little bit off. Just a little bit off. But when they find that next level, when they find that next gear, and I think that comes with health, especially health to the offensive line, health to that receiving core. Oh, it's going to be game over. And if you get Jair Alexander back and you get Kevin King back on defense, look out. You team him up with Eric Stokes. Can you imagine Eric Stokes and Jair Alexander? We got to see that just a little bit, a little taste of it. But now Stokes has got some more time under his belt. You see that he's definitely got the chops to play NFL football. Is he perfect? No, but is he good? Yes. That's gonna be scary for the opposition to go into. So no surprise that they're at the top. The Cardinals being 7-1. If you looked at their progression, you knew they had everything they needed offensively, and they have the pieces on defense. Remember, Chandler Jones got hurt last year, was out for the season. He's back this year. Now they lost J.J. Watt. He's out for the year. But that defense plays tough. That offense is explosive. A.J. Green, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk. You got Edmonds in the running game. I mean, they've got the pieces. They could go out there and put up points with the best of them. Them being at 7-1 is a slight surprise. I didn't see them being at the top of the division or at the top of the NFL. They're tied for the best record in the NFL. Right behind them in second, because they got the head-to-head win against them, the Cardinals did, is the Rams. They're also 7-1. You knew with them acquiring Matthew Stafford and trading for him, trading Jared Goff to Detroit and bringing him in, you knew there was going to be a vast improvement. Matthew Stafford has consistently been one of the better quarterbacks in all of the NFL, but he does not get that credit because Detroit loses. Despite his performances and the way he's able to bring this team back, they continue to be inept in other areas that continue to seep onto the field and does not let them be as successful. Therefore, he did not get the attention he deserved. Now he's getting it with the Rams. We know what they boast on defense, and now they've traded for Von Miller. So you got Aaron Donald and Von Miller and Quinn and Jalen Ramsey and all the other guys on that defense that was already tough, that it just got a little bit more tough. They're definitely going all in. But them being 7-1 doesn't surprise me. You knew they were going to be a good squad. The Seahawks being at 3-5 is a little bit surprising. That's definitely a little bit surprising. The Cowboys being 6-1, not very surprising if you look at their division. I mean, it's the NFC least. They call it the NFC least for a reason, but at least the Cowboys ain't under 500 leading their division this season. I'll just leave it at that. The Buccaneers, defending champions, you knew they're going to be tops in their division, but the Saints are right behind them. And again, prayers out to Jameis Winston, out for the season with a torn ACL. Damage to his MCL on a horse collar tackle by the Bucks. Horrible way to go out for the season. Just unfair. All they got was a 15-yard penalty. No, I mean that it just seems unequal to me. You knocked out their quarterback for the season on an illegal tackle. But them being at 5-2, some people will call that a little bit of a surprise. I just know that, and I've always said it. If Sean Payton were to ever make Jameis Winston the starter, he would rein him in, and he could be a very good quarterback. Now, this year, he was playing a bit of a game manager role. If you think back to when Mike McCarthy first became the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, and the season that Brett Favre had the year before, he had 20-plus interceptions. McCarthy had to rein Favre in. And the first year, they went 8-8. Rodgers had 18 touchdowns, 18 interceptions. He reined him in. No, you don't want him to have 18 interceptions, but it's better than the 20-plus he had the year before. Then the next season, MVP caliber season. Wasn't 18 interceptions. And I believe they made an NFC Championship game. This was kind of the same track. It reminded me of that same track with Sean Payton and Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston has all the arm talent in the world, but he just needs to be reined in from taking those chances. And that's what Sean Payton was doing. I think eventually they would have opened up that playbook, especially when they get a few more playmakers in the wide receiver spots. And you'd be seeing them throw the ball all over the yard. But terrible way for them to go out. Prayers up to Jameis Winston on speedy recovery. Hopefully he comes back better than ever. Panthers 4-4, Falcons 3-4, kind of where you thought those guys would be. If you're thinking about a real disappointment, and this is what I mean, it's kind of disappointment, but not really. I mean, Washington has definitely underperformed. They're 2-6, but Detroit being winless. They're the only winless team in the NFL currently. The only winless team in the NFL are the Detroit Lions. Everybody's jumping on the bandwagon of, see, that's why they traded Goff. That's why the Rams traded Goff. He ain't it. He ain't it. But it's like, is it really Goff's fault? This franchise, the Lions, has just suffered with ineptitude at every level. And they continue to get the same results. Now, again, year one of a new coach, with Dan Campbell. They, too, have lost some tough games. I mean, they lost to the Ravens on a 66-yard field goal by Justin Tucker. I mean, after fighting back to get the 1-point lead in that game, late in the game. So they definitely fought hard, but they're still winless. So it's like, yeah, you expected them to not be really in contention this season, but you didn't expect them to be 0-8. They're almost at the halfway mark of the season. Did not see that coming. But you kind of figured they'd be down there with great ineptitude. That's just who they are. That's just who they've been. You hope things turn around, not at the expense of Green Bay, obviously, but you hope things turn around for them. But man, that's just a long string of ineptitude. But again, did not expect them to be lighting the world on fire, but I definitely didn't expect them to be 0-8. Better days are ahead, but, that's why it's go back, go always. All right, y'all. That'll do it for me. It's episode 99 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. 99, y'all. One step away from 100. You know where to find me on social media at D20Double. That's at D, the number 2, the number 0, and the word double. Follow me there, Twitter and Instagram. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show is the Toss on Facebook page. Touch on a lot of things there that we don't necessarily get a chance to on the show. It's Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. Follow us there. And of course, check out TossNationMedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports It's what you deserve. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T Squared, Tristan Thomas, reminding all of you to keep moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week. So long from Toss.